A dot plot is a visual representation of data using dots, right? Visual means we're looking at it with our eyes and, right, we're representing the data with dots, that dot plot. We're putting dots and plotting them. So we're going to create this dot plot here. So here's these people and they have read books last trimester. So it's how many books they read each trimester. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to place a dot above the number every time we see that happen. So our first one is 2, so we're putting a dot above the 2. Then we have 4, 5, 7, 3, right? They're all just lined up for the first one. Now we have 4 again. Now we have 2 again. We want to make sure that our second level also matches. We get another 7, 9, another 2, a 10, and a 5. So here is our visual representation. It's just a little easier for our brains to take in and see, oh, there's no zeros and ones, there's no 6s, there's no 8s. Where when there's lined up like this, it's a little harder to tell what we have and what we don't, or how many of them we have. So now every time we have a dot plot, we want to make sure we understand what are the dots and what are the numbers on the bottom. They're not the same thing. So on this one, the dots are our observations. They're the students. How many people did we ask this question to? And then below, the numbers are their answers. This is how many books they read. So every time, if it asks students, we want to be looking at dots. If it's asking about books, we want to be looking at the numbers. So our first one here asks us how many students were surveyed. So we're talking about students. So we want to be counting the dots. So we're going to go and we're going to count how many dots there are. So go ahead and count up all the dots and put your answer. Our next question says which number of books. So we're looking at the number of books was the most common. So which one happened the most? So we're looking at the numbers and we're seeing which number, right? It's not the biggest number. It says which one happened the most. So we're looking at how many dots are above it. Which one has the most dots above it? So we're looking at the numbers at the bottom. Which one has the most above it? Go ahead and put your answer. Next up says how many total books were read. So we need to use the numbers on the bottom. We will have to use some dots for some information, but we're going to be using the numbers on the bottom. So how many total books were read? So right, this student read 2 books, and this student read 2 books, and this student read 2 books. All together, these students have read 6 books. Now this student read 3, this student read 4, and this student read 4. So together, they've read 8 books. This student read 5 and 5. Together, they've read 10 books. 7 and 7 together, they've read 14 books, right? We're just adding up each student, how many books they read. This student read 9 books, and this student read 10 books. So now we're going to add up all those numbers, 6 plus 3 plus 8 plus 10 plus 14 plus 9 plus 10, and see how many total books they read. We're just putting them all together. And our last question says, what percentage of students read at least 7 books? So we need to go ahead and set up our percentage formula here. So we know percents are always out of 100. So we're looking for the percent up here. So we need to know students. So right, students are dots. At least 7 books, right? 7's the lowest or more. So we're looking at all these numbers here, and then we want to know how many students did that. So first we need to know how many students there are altogether, which we already answered. How many students were surveyed? We have 12 students that were surveyed. So 12 is the total it could be, right? If all 12 of them read the books, that would be 100%. But not everybody read at least 7 books. So we're going to see just the students that did 7 or more, which, right, there's 4 students there. So that goes on top. We have 4 out of 12 students that read at least 7 books. So now because we have this equal sign here, we can crisscross multiply. So that's 400. And we're going to divide that by 12. So 12 can't go into 4, but it goes into 40 3 times, which is 36. We have 4 left over. We're bringing down that 0. So it looks like it's just going to repeat again. That goes in there 3 times. is 36. 4 is left over again, so we're going to add that 0 and a decimal. And it's just going to keep on going 3, 3, 3 forever and ever and ever because that pattern we have there. So we have 33.3% of the students that read 7 or more books last trimester. So we've got to remember every time we're doing dot plots, what do the dots represent, right? Those are how many people we asked the question to. The numbers on the bottom are the things that we asked them. So go ahead and color in anything that's going to help you remember about dot plots, those dots down the side, the books up at the top. What can you do to get those dot plots in your head?